Hi, and welcome to this 30-minute yoga practice. I'm Andrea. Thanks for joining me. You'll notice that I have a chair. I think for this practice, that would be a good idea. We're going to play with balance a little bit. I like to have mine nearby. You might as well. I've also got a couple of blocks. If you don't have blocks, it could be that some sturdy books would help. But for anything that we use the blocks with, or most things, you also have the option of using the base of your chair. So another reason the chair might be good to have. I have a folded blanket. A big beach towel would work, your throw blanket from your couch. And though I'm standing on a mat, if you don't have one, just find a carpeted area or something that's not too slick. I'm barefoot. You're welcome to keep your shoes on if that's more comfortable. And then let's get started in our foundational pose, Tadasana, which means mountain pose. So you'll stand at the front edge of your mat, and it's probably best that you angle the front edge of your mat towards me. I'm going to move my mat around as we go, but you don't need to do any movement of mat. I will let you know when we need to change props. So standing in our mountain feet hip distance, little soft bend to your knees. Turn your palms away from one another and away from your body so that it smiles your collarbones. And then just lean your head back a little bit. That doesn't mean lift your chin. It means imagine making a little bit of a double chin. Leaning the back of your head back, chin parallel to the ground, and we're thinking ears over shoulders, over hips, over heels. You can take a soft gaze here. If you're comfortable, even close your eyes and feel that even this mountain pose, even just standing, has balance, right? A little forward and back motion, a little side to side. The other thing we want to bring awareness to is our breath. We breathe all the time, usually with not much awareness around it. So take a deep inhale and try, if you can, to breathe through your nose. And a complete exhale, and even the exhale, if it works for you, is through your nose. And take a moment to stop here so that we can start. Gorgeous. Inhale, arms overhead, V shape. Exhale, just float your arms back along your sides. Again, inhale, arms out to the side, a V shape. Exhale, float your arms alongside. Adding on to our sun salutation, inhale, arms overhead, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to the tops of your thighs. So it's a hinge at the hips. Inhale and lengthen through your spine and out the crown of your head. Exhale, deepen the crease of your hips just a little bit, head never below your hips, and then inhale, arms out to the side, V shape overhead. Exhale, arms along your sides. Fantastic. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale, heart extends, we lengthen through our spine. Exhale, a little bit more hinge at the hips. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. And then float the arms alongside you, palms face out. One more time, just like that. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Hands to the tops of your thighs. Inhale, grow longer than you have yet. And then exhale, a little bit more hinge at the hip. Inhale, arms out to your sides, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. And then stand in the majesty of your mountain. We'll add on. Inhale into a chair pose. Bend your knees, a V shape overhead. And then exhale, float the arms alongside you. Turn your palms away. Twice more, just like that. Inhale, chair pose. Exhale, stand, arms along your side. Inhale, chair pose, warming up. Exhale, arms along your side, palms face out. Inhale, chair pose, Hands to the tops of your thighs. Keep your knees bent. Inhale, lengthen through your spine. Exhale, a little bit more hip hinge. Bend your knees a little bit deeper. Keep them bent. Arms float out, V-shape overhead. Then exhale, let your legs straighten and your arms float alongside you. Once more like that. Chair pose, bend your knees, a V-shape. Stay in your chair. Take your hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen through your spine. Exhale, bend your knees just a little bit deeper into your chair and keep them bent. Emphasis into the heels. So feel your weight in your heels, a V-shape overhead. Slowly straighten your legs and stand into your mountain. Adding on one more thing. Bend your knees into chair pose. Now this time as you exhale, stand onto your left foot and bring your right knee towards your chest a little. Doesn't have to go very high. Stamp that right foot back into your mat, chair pose, and then stand on your right leg and let your left knee drift towards your chest. A little bit of balance. Chair pose, feet are hip distance, V-shape overhead. Right knee to your chest, standing on your left leg. And then chair pose, V-shape, arms overhead. Stand and bring your left knee towards your chest. One more round on each side, chair pose. And then stand, right knee towards your chest, chair pose. And then stand and left knee towards your chest. Chair pose, bring your hands to your thighs. Inhale, your heart long and the crown of your head tall. Exhale, a little bit more hinge in the hips. Keep your knees bent for a chair. Thumbs to the sky, V-shape. Let's stay here for a moment and breathe. Let your gaze be at the horizon. We want to make sure we're not pulling our shoulders into our ears. So if you keep those thumbs to the sky, and then just feel like your weight is more in your heels than in your toes. 2 more moments. If you need to stand up before I mention it, no problem. Stand. Whew. Just feel. Feel all the feels for a moment and breathe. We're going to play a little bit with our chair pose and the balance, but in a different way. You'll see what I mean. This is a very good time to bring in the chair and use the back of the chair just in case. Just in case. So let's head back to our flow a little bit. Bend your knees, chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Now stay in chair pose and shift your weight onto your left foot and lift the right foot. Pause. Stamp your right foot and come back up to standing. And then second side, bend your knees, chair pose, V-shape overhead. Keep your knees bent, shift the weight onto your right foot, and then lift your left foot just a few inches off your mat and pause. Do your best. I know it's a little wobbly, that's why the chair could be right nearby. Stamp left foot into your mat and then stand into your mountain. Adding on to that, chair pose, bending your knees, very good time to take your hand to the base of your chair, stand on your left leg, pick up your right foot, and then just cross at the ankles. If you're using your chair, keep your hand on your chair. If you're not using your chair, right thumb to the sky, maybe left thumb to the sky. Pause. 2 moments just like this. Now, you can use your chair on the way out. Stamp your feet hip distance. Chair pose, as opposed to using your chair. And then inhale, lengthen to your spine, and exhale, hinge at the hips. Both feet are stamping into the ground. Chair pose. Stand. And arms along your side, palms face out. We'll take the second side, and there's a few things I want you to notice about the midline that helps us to balance. So you can switch sides if you're using your chair, meaning switch the side you're on of your chair. Chair pose, V-shape overhead. Take the weight onto your right foot, lift your left foot a few inches off your mat, keep breathing. You can have your hand on your chair. And then crisscross at the ankles and either both forearms or both thumbs to the sky, or you keep your hand on your chair. But here's what I'd like you to find. See the crisscross of your inner thighs? You can even kind of emphasize that a little bit. That's a midline. We have to, what they say, hug the midline in order to find balance. Otherwise, we'll be all over the place, right? Now, slowly, standing on your right foot, left foot hip distance, we're in chair. Hands to your thighs. Inhale your heart forward. Exhale a little bit more, hinge at the hips. Chair pose, arms out and up, and then stand and pause. We'll do that one more time, and there is the possibility of doing it a little bit differently this time for some of us. Chair pose, stand onto your left foot, lift your right foot just a little, hand could go on the chair, and then either cross at the ankle or imagine that you're sitting in a chair and you're cross-legged, so it could just be knee on top of knee, and feel the inner thighs move towards one another. Feel like you're kind of a little braided up in the middle, and that's helpful for your balance. Otherwise, the whole thing is gonna feel wobbly, yeah? And then you can use your hand on the chair the whole time, or maybe for the dismount, feet hip distance, chair, hands onto your thighs, inhale, length to your spine, exhale, a little bit more hinge at the hip, chair pose, and then stand. So good. Second side of our experiment, chair pose. Stand onto your right foot, lift your left foot. You can have your hand on your chair. Either across at the ankles, which is perfect, or you might pick it up just a little and cross it at the knees. Either way, you feel that you're hugging a midline for balance as opposed to letting the wobbles take place. And you're breathing the whole time. Super good work here. Uncross, hip distance, hands to your thighs. We're still bent kneed unless you need to straighten your legs more. Inhale some length into your spine. Exhale, increase the hinge at the hip a little. Stay in your chair if you don't mind. Thumbs to the sky. And then stand into your mountain. Excellent. Now, to further our experiment, we'll now stand on your left leg and start to take your right leg out to the side a little bit. And notice how that gets away from the midline and difficult to balance. So it doesn't have to go very far to feel a little bit tricky. Can you hug your outer left hip in? And even though I know the opposite from crossing your legs is happening, can you imagine that feeling of hugging a midline? You could take your arms out to the side in a V shape overhead, but you may want to use your hand on your chair and just notice the wobbles as part of the learning. And then carefully hip distance, stand in your mountain and pause. Great work. This time standing on your right foot. Hand can go on your chair or arms along your side just to get it started. Take your left leg off the ground and out to the side. And it gets a little bit more difficult, at least for me. I can only speak for myself. Hug your right hip in. If you want to take your arms out or even up, you can, but we're trying to find that feeling of a crisscross, even though our leg is actually doing the opposite. So this is called abduction, meaning we're going away from the midline, and adduction is the midline that we're trying to find. It's balance in actions. And then stand hip distance, arms along your side, majesty of your mountain. This is the point where I think a lot of us will benefit from a chair in front of our mat, or you can have your two blocks carefully set on either side of your mat, like I'm doing here. So I take my blocks, I just want to make sure they're not in my way because we're going to do some stepping back. You don't want to have anything in your path when you do that. Stand with your feet hip distance in your mountain. Inhale, chair pose, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, a little bit of a fold. Inhale, heart forward. Keep your heart forward. Take your hands to the base of your chair or your hands to your tall blocks and step your left foot back so that your right foot is forward. Now, even here, and I know we've done lunges together before. If you're new to joining us, welcome, by the way, and you will be just fine. This has that feeling of a crisscross at the thighs also, even though we've stepped the leg away from anything that looks like the cross-legged thing that we did earlier. But we did that already standing, right, when it went out to the side. So think of drawing your right hip back and your left hip forward. Think of the crisscross in your legs even though it's not there right now. And either stay here or come upright, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. If this is too much, keep your hands on your blocks. Mostly what I'd like you to find today is that feeling of crisscross. So we don't have the hip hanging out. We've got more of a feeling of when we crossed our legs happening in this stance. And then return your hands to your blocks or to the base of your chair and step your left foot hip distance from your right. Hands come to thighs, inhale, length through your spine. Keep the bend in your knees as you hinge at the hips. A little chair pose moment, thumbs to the sky, and then stand into your mountain. Great. Second side. Bend your knees, inhale. Hands to thighs as you fold. Your next inhale lengthens your spine while we're here with hands on thighs, and then you transfer your hands to the base of your chair or to your tall blocks. Step your right foot back this time. And now here we are in our lunge stance. And many of us are going to stay right here because we're nerding out on feeling the midline today, and you might be able to nerd out a little more effectively here. So crisscross the legs even though they're not doing that. But find that so that no matter what happens when we're wandering around in life, we can find the midline. We can find our balance. If you want to come upright, do it slowly. Stamp into your left heel, V-shape overhead. The crisscross is true, whether your hands are still on your chair or your blocks, or if you're venturing your arms in a V-shape overhead. Just 2 moments here. Think left hip back and right hip forward so we don't have the wobbly out to the side stuff that we've been trying to find our way away from. And then hands on blocks or hands to the base of your chair. Step your right foot hip distance from your left. Take your hands to your thighs. Inhale, find that length through your spine. Exhale, a little bit more, hinge at the hips. Knees stay bent for our chair pose, and then stand into your mountain. Great. One more adventure here. Bend your knees, chair pose. Inhale, V shape. Keep your knees bent, hands come to your thighs. Inhale, length through your spine. Hands to base of chair or hands to blocks. Step your left foot back. We're in our lunge again. Now this also can be done keeping your hands on the base of your chair or on your blocks, or you might try it upright, especially if you did upright earlier. What we're going to find here is straightening that front leg, but making sure we still feel the crisscross action. So as you straighten your leg, whether your hands are on your blocks, you're not letting this happen, hip out to the side. You're thinking about the crisscross as you straighten your legs. And it's a little balancing act if you're standing upright, isn't it? So keep the crisscross, find the balance, just like we did when we were crossing legs over each other at the beginning. And then rebend your knee, hands to blocks or to the base of your chair. Step your left foot hip distance, hands come to your thighs. Inhale, length into your spine. Exhale, increase the hinge at the hips. And then keep your knees bent. Bring yourself into chair and then stand into your mountain. Fantastic. Second side. Inhale, chair, a V shape. Hands to your thighs, little hinge at the hips, and then the inhale takes your chest forward, the crown of your head is long. Hands to the base of your chair or hands to your blocks. Step your right foot back. Here we are in our lunge, side 2, as part of our experiment. Now you can keep your hands here or on the base of the chair, or venture your arms in a V shape overhead. Either way, think crisscross as you slow motion straighten that left leg. And it's left hip back, right hip forward. So as we straighten, we don't fall into this category, right? We want to think of that midline. Just do your best. Remember, we're nerding out together. 2 more moments with hands wherever they want to be, either up to the sky or on your blocks or the base of your chair. And then begin to rebend that knee. Hands come onto your blocks or to the base of your chair. Move slowly, mindfully, because we're getting a little fatigued, probably tired. Right foot hip distance from left, hands to thighs. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips. Stay in your chair if you don't mind, thumbs to the sky. Slow motion, straighten your legs. Stand in your mountain. See if you can find a sense of midline, not only in your stance here and in the architecture of it, but in the mindfulness. Can you come to a middle ground? A place where you're not reviewing your performance from what we just did, and you're not busy wondering what we're going to do next. You're standing right here in the middle. Two moments. A little standing meditation. Inhale into chair one more time. Hands to your thighs. Let the next inhale lengthen your spine. And now we make our way to the ground, so I want us to be careful using the base of your chair, maybe tall blocks possibly. But start to make yourself slowly onto your mat. Move props with the same mindfulness that we're moving through our practice. You want to move the base of the chair a little bit. And then take a seat, and I'm going to recommend that as you take your seat, that you fold your blanket to sit on. I'm going to now do the moving of my mat that I said I might do, just to make sure that you can see me. You don't need to move your mat at all. Sitting on your folded blanket, take your legs carefully wide out to the side for a moment, and then just have your arms alongside you. Flex your toes, sit tall. So this is away from the midline, this widening of our legs. Enjoy a couple of moments here. Like a little seated meditation moment together. Feel free to close your eyes or have a soft gaze while we're here. And then really slowly, and maybe you help it along with your hands on the outer thighs, start to draw your legs towards one another. And once you've done that, we're still sitting tall. That's why the blanket is really helpful, so we don't collapse into rounding. Bend your right knee and cross your right foot over your left leg. So now we're coming back to the midline. It actually looks a little bit like the pose did when we were standing. Most of us are probably going to be happy just like this, feeling that nerding out place we were talking about, the crisscross. Some, if your knees will enjoy it, could even cross the knee on top like this. All of us are going to feel a little stretch in our left hamstring and maybe in the right hip a little bit. Can you sit tall and feel the midline even here as we sit? Soft gaze, possibly closing your eyes. Take a few moments and breathe. Great, 2 more moments as we are. And then if you've closed your eyes, just blink your eyes open so you can watch the dismount. If you crossed over, I want us to be careful. So help it along to stamp your right foot. And then for all of us, both legs out in front. And then we'll switch sides. So bend your left knee and just step it over. So we're crisscrossing back into that midline feel. Do curl your right toes back towards you a bit. Feel free to stay just like this. I already feel the stretch here. I can sense the midline. It might be everything I need. If it feels interesting to you and it doesn't feel not interesting to your knee, then maybe you fold that knee over and it might increase a little bit of the stretch that you get on the outer left hip, but mostly it's a crisscross in the midline. And then let's bring ourselves back to the middle ground that we found when we had our standing meditation, here in a seated meditation. Let's be right where we are, here in the middle, not thinking about what we did before and not anticipating what we're going to do next. Stay with it, just a few more moments breathing. Remember that you can have your eyes closed, or we're sporting our soft gaze. Blink your eyes open if you close them. Help it along if you're knee over knee. Stamp your left foot. And then just step, all of us, the left leg off the right leg. And we will come off of our perch. Lie down onto your back. I'm going to take one more moment to move my mat a little. I just want to make sure that you can see what I'm up to here. You want all of your props out of the way. When you lie down on your back, we're just going to further the nerding out a little bit. Take your legs up to the sky. It's completely fine to keep a bend in your knees. Let your legs go wide. They don't have to go very far. And then just cross right knee over left knee. It's almost like the lying down version of what we did seated. Straighten both legs to the sky. Take them out wide. And then cross left knee over right knee and pause. Uncross, take your legs a little bit wide out to the side and then bend both knees. If it feels okay, give yourself a squeeze on the shins or on the hamstrings, just evening it out. And then place your feet on your mat, as wide as your mat with your knees falling in on one another. Pick up your hips just an inch, so carefully. Make a little space in your low back. And either stay like this for our final Shavasana meditation, or extend one leg and then the other. Feet flop open. You can close your eyes, maybe even cover your eyes. 1 minute to digest and rest as we finish in Shavasana final meditation. You're always welcome to stay as long as you'd like here in our final Shavasana meditation. if you're ready to start to make your way back, gently move your fingers and toes. Bend your knees and place your feet on your mat if they're not there. Roll carefully to either side and use the strength of your arms so your head can be the last thing to come up to any comfortable seat. Once you're seated, palms up or down, take a moment and feel your middle ground. It's one of the wonderful things about doing a yoga practice is it brings us into the middle. Not chasing what's next, not constantly reviewing what happened, but fully living right here, right now. Take that yoga with you out into the world. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing it again soon.